Alright, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. Today's video is gonna be quite in-depth, so be ready and get ready to hear a lot of things I have to talk about the Azteca raid. I know a lot of people have been doing the Azteca raid. There's a couple people I know from other guilds that have been trying their best to do the Azteca raid, and a lot of people have either complaints or certain things regarding the raid. I know some of them to me don't seem as valid. It's just more of just like a skill issue, I'd say, as Cam would say.
Seems like a skill issue to me.
But I feel like some of them are kind of worth addressing and kind of want to give my feedback. I wrote down a lot of things regarding the Azteca raid, from whether it be from secret bosses to mechanics to actual boss mechanics. There's so many things I want to talk about, and I know I haven't posted like a full-on in-depth review of the Azteca raid, and I think this is the perfect time to do that because I definitely have a lot of hours in the Azteca raid, from multiple attempts to even going back to test realm. I have a lot of things to talk about, like I said, so get ready to hear a lot. I'll definitely show some footage of the raid in the background. Probably be like a different variety of footage from like multiple attempts, from whether it be test from, whether from like last week or maybe the past couple days. I have a lot of footage I'm just sitting on, but you guys will see all that in the background. So let's talk about some things that I want to address, right? I know there was a raid roundtable, but that raid roundtable I don't even want to talk about, right? I feel like it wasn't even done properly. But let's talk about my raid roundtable, right? This is essentially my own raid roundtable. So I think we should talk about patch notes first. I think patch notes, they've definitely been a thing for the longest, right? Whenever there's a recent patch coming out, or whether it be an update, we always have patch notes at the bottom of the update, whether you go on the Wizard101 website or people posting it in certain discords. It's always get passed around. But I have an issue with the patch notes. So whenever they talk about patch notes and saying, hey, this is what got patched, whether it be stuff that's actually happening in the game or raid mechanics or PvP stuff, they only tell us briefly. And when it comes to other games, like for example like Destiny or Call of Duty or like any other game, whenever there's patch notes, they list everything. And when I mean everything, everything that's done, right? Wizard101 doesn't do that, and it really does annoy me a lot. I feel like if there's something getting patched, please tell us. Like, please tell the community, hey, this is what also got patched, because they do this every time that there's like a new patch that comes out. There's always stuff that gets patched but not listed on the notes, and I hate having to figure it out myself. I've done this every time that there's been a patch notes coming out. There's certain things I have to figure out myself if they actually patched it. This happened multiple times in the raid, whether it be minions being changed or stuff like that. Nothing gets told in the actual patch notes, and I definitely think it should be. Like, I hate having to beat around the bush and just figure everything myself when literally every other game tells you all the stuff that they patch. I don't think it's that hard to just tell us everything that's going on, right? I know there might be some patch notes regarding certain bosses that we haven't even got to, right? But you never know. There's people that's been to those bosses and they just don't talk about it. For example, like me, I've done Elemental or Xibalba Elemental multiple times, and people think that there hasn't been anyone that spawned it, right? But I've spawned it. There's been bugs with that, and I've even talked about it with certain people, and there's some bugs regarding that. But with stuff like that, when it gets patched, it's not located in the notes. Just tell us about it in the patch notes. I feel like if players get notified this is what got patched, it would make a lot of people happy, right? And just because if there's a lot of stuff that got patched and they don't want to include it, then have it somewhere else. There's definitely probably another page that you guys can put it on of like all the patch notes, all the bug fixes. It would make the community so much more happy to see that there's actually stuff being fixed, instead of just writing down 3 things that are getting fixed, because it ain't 3 things that are getting fixed. There's multiple things that are getting fixed in that patch. They just don't tell you. So that's the topic about patch notes. Now let's talk about glitches and bugs within the raid. We have been through so many bugs within this Azteca raid. It's actually absurd. And don't get me wrong, I legit love this raid, right? Don't take this video as, oh, I hate the Azteca raid. I do not hate the Azteca raid. I aesthetically looks amazing. I love some of these bosses. I'm glad they actually introduced certain mechanics to these bosses. It's just amazing, right? But it's like a love-hate relationship. I love it, but I want stuff to be actually fixed too, such as glitches. We've had glitches where badges aren't working as intended, right? Me myself, I have spawned in stuff and I haven't gotten badges, right? And it sucks for those people who are going for badges. I know right now people shouldn't be complaining about badges, right? But if you do something that's worth of an accomplishment, like you think that it's like a big accomplishment in your eyes, like such as like spawning in Xibalba Elemental, you know, doing all that stuff, and it's bugged, like that's just the worst feeling ever, right? Spending like multiple hours on end trying to summon a boss and then it just not working as intended, it really sucks. It really sucks just not getting what you should be rewarded, you know? And it was like this in test room. I get it, it's test room, right? But for the longest time we were not able to summon the north boss, which is Yataxa. For like the longest we were able to summon every single other boss in test room, but Yataxa just did not work. And then by the time that happened, test room was already over, and then we came back to live realm, right? People are trying out the raid and stuff like that. Then there's more issues, you know? It's definitely not the way to go. It's definitely not, right? And same thing when it comes to cheats. Certain cheats weren't working as intended. Same thing as Xibalba Elemental. Xibalba Elemental didn't have cheats that are working as intended, and there's other stuff that's not working as intended, aka misfortune tiers. So when we go to misfortune tiers, they're on the left side of the map, which is basically the west side, right? And if you depot, I think roughly around like 10, it could be a little bit more, a little bit less, but I don't remember the exact number. But if you depot it and you fill it up, essentially there will not be any misfortune wisps on the map. They all turn into mana wisps. We went through different varieties of patches where essentially misfortune tiers will just disappear, and then eventually they made it so it spawns mana wisps all across the map, which is perfect, right? That sounds perfect, but there's some issues behind that. So if you depot more tiers after it's already full and the timer started ticking down, what happens is it can bug out the misfortune tiers. Essentially it would cause the timer to somewhat get extended, but in return, it is a big caveat. More wisps spawn on the map, which is the Misfortune Wisps, so you can actually hit those. And another thing is that every time you try to restart it and try to put more tiers, it basically gets reset after like 2 seconds later. So then you're back to 0 wisps or 0 tiers that are in that Misfortune tier thing. So, or the collector, I mean. So you get sent back to 0 after you depot like 2 because you tried extending it, and now you have this issue where it gets sent back to 0, and just like, what's the point of doing the misfortune tiers then? It's a really good mechanic. I've done it multiple times in our raid attempts because it has a lot of value behind it now, because the fact that you can get mana, and mana is very sought after in this raid. You know, whenever you're going for whatever badge is the 1% of the 1% in this raid, because they definitely have a badge like this in this raid. I wouldn't go like make it go past the devs. I expect them to do something like that, to have a badge where you have to defeat all 3 bosses in the raid. We might as well start, you know, working towards glitches that can get patched to help, you know, make us progress in that way. I definitely see players trying to go for that badge, whatever the badge name it might be. It's definitely not going to be called 1% of the 1%, but it'll probably be a badge that's along the sides of you having to defeat both secret bosses and the main boss, which is Hunhau, right? But if we have glitches like this, it's going to cause the player base not wanting to do this raid. And mana wisps are needed, especially if you're going to go for the Xibalba Elemental, because of the fact that if you want to summon that boss, you have to go in the rain. And speaking of the rain, you can bug out the rain completely in the raid, and I'm pretty sure no one knew this except the guild that I usually raid with, because not many people are actually like wanting to raid at the moment because of these issues. And I know saying that can probably be like, well, people do raid. People do 100% raid. Do not get it twisted. I raid. I'm pretty sure I've seen Sauce raid. I've seen other guilds raid as well. But I slowly see people not wanting to raid because of all these bugs. They just want to wait till all these bugs are fixed. And I'm trying my best to get it across to devs and be like, hey, I see some bugs, any possible way you can look into it or whatever. And, you know, luckily the devs are nice. You know, they actually do respond to my messages and hear me out and certain things. I'm glad, right, to be in a position where I can do that, but not everyone can, right? But the rain can bug out. Like back to the statement I was saying, the rain can bug out. If you kill the sprite at a certain timing, you can completely bug out the rain in the raid and you don't have to deal with basically the rain anymore. So if you wanted to go for Hunhau and you're like, you know what, I don't want to deal with the rain anymore, well, just do one of the Xibalba sprites, and if you time the kill, you can delete the rain off the map. Why not? So hopefully that gets fixed. I mean, I ran it by a couple devs, but there's that. And then we have another issue where Hunhau just loves to tell you where it's gonna rain. And let's say I'm fishing, right? Because you do have to do fishing in this raid. If you want to spawn in the west side boss, there's 3 mechanics you need to do to summon the west side boss. You got to have fish done, you got to depot some Cacao Pods, which are just located on the map. You just pick them up, depot them, and then you got to get these skulls from defeating two separate mob fights. So now let's talk about the fishing part. When you want to fish, right? If you want to catch the fish, they're all sentinels. So if you don't know what sentinels do, they just chase the lure and then you can just capture them easy, right? But when I'm trying to capture it and Hunhau pops up on my screen saying, hey man, it's raining over here now, I can't catch the fish anymore because it cancels all my actions. And this has happened multiple times in the raid, whether it be from fishing, whether from depoting pods and depoting tiers. That has caused me to either get sent to jail, lose my mana, or anything like that, due to the fact of Hunhau popping up on my screen saying, hey man, it's raining north, it's raining west, it's raining east, like whatever, right? Dude, I covered my screen, love it every time, love it. I'm pretty sure that's an easy fix, but it should not cover my actions and like stop me from doing what I'm doing in the raid. I think a lot of people can agree with this, and I'm praying it gets fixed. All right, I'm praying it gets fixed because this is mad annoying, right? Like, I love the boss and all that. He looks cool. I've seen footage of, you know, him being spawned in and everything like that. But bro does not have to cover my screen whenever he wants to talk. That's mad annoying. So that's when it comes to glitches and bugs. Like, bosses aren't working as intended. Mainly the secret bosses. Dude, Hunhau probably has some stuff right at the moment that we don't even know as players, and he's probably bugged at the same time, right? But definitely they should look into those things and fix them. I'm praying my freaking Xibalba elemental gets fixed, man. It kind of ruined my birthday because we're so excited to do Xibalba elemental, and I was going to record a video of us beating it for the, you know, for my birthday, because I wanted to do something different this year. And guess what? We would have defeated him, but his cheats are bugged. Love it, right? It really made me depressed that day, because like I was so excited to upload that video. I knew all the cheats, I knew how to defeat the boss. And then the one time we get it all prepped up and try to do it, we don't get the badge, cheats aren't working. It's just sad, man. It's really sad. And we wasted the key because there's server issues. Server issues were happening yesterday, and a lot of people were crashing and all that stuff. We wasted a whole key, right? I know I shouldn't be complaining about a key, but if it ruins your whole attempt, right? Like, the key isn't an issue. Like, you can just go get that like nothing, right? The resources are not hard to get. Especially if you have multiple people like working on it, it's really not an issue. But it's still like, bro, server issues, really? Like, this has happened multiple times now. It's happened to Sauce, it's happened to me, it's happened to other content creators, it's happened to other people in the community. Like, huh? I mean, hopefully I get my key back, but that's crazy. Now let's talk about Misfortune tiers, right? Or Misfortune Wisps, I mean. So a lot of people have some issues behind this, like saying that, well, they shouldn't even exist. I think they should exist. Let's be honest. I don't think you need to remove the Misfortune Wisps off the map, right? I feel like the KI would not just remove a mechanic like that. I think the Misfortune Wisps are great. I think they're top notch. I'm glad that they have 3 different things. They can, you know, may slow you down your character, you know, you can get sent to jail. Yeah, there's a jail mechanic in this raid. You can get sent to jail, or you can just you know, lose all your mana. So it's either those 3 things. You get slowed down, you lose all your mana, or you get sent to jail, right? At one period in time, there was an issue in test realm where it basically got rid of all your energy. And I'm pretty sure that's fixed by now, right? I'm pretty sure that wasn't intended, but that existed in test realm, right? Thank God it was test realm. If it was live realm, people would be mad annoying, like about it, like saying, why did I lose all my energy? That should not be a mechanic, this, that, right? And I can already hear all the people complaining about it, right? But for the Misfortune Wisps, so when you start the raid, I think the Misfortune Wisp should already be spawned in while you're in the raid, right? If you're waiting to step on the drums, the Misfortune Wisp should already be there. They should not spawn on top of my player, right? I get it, right? If there's a Misfortune Wisp already in the distance and I decide to just run into it, okay, that's just me, right? That's just a skill issue, right? But I can't do anything if it spawns literally on me, right? If it spawns on me and it's not even there on my screen. It's happened to Liam, it's happened to me, it's happened to Sauce, it's happened to everybody at this point.
Alright, teacher, I'm lost.
There's nothing near me.
It's spawned on you, bro. It spawned on you, little bro.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
It's okay, man.
Never had that happen.
Yeah, it's happened to me twice, bro. Wait, so is someone in jail? Oh, well, never mind. Let's not talk about that. If that hasn't happened to a person, they're lying, right? Because it's definitely happened, and I've seen it from multiple perspectives, right? So definitely, whenever you spawn, before you even I think before you even step on the drums, it should already be predetermined where the Misfortune Wisps are. I shouldn't have to like run in a certain direction right after the the raid starts and then just a wisp spawns on me. I can't do anything about that, man, right? Just make it so it's predetermined, right? So like it's already there before before the raid even starts. The wisp would already be spawned in my opinion. And that's another issue, right? Whenever you do battles, for example, whenever you're doing the token fights, whenever you're doing whatever fights, right? Either going for stupefy, going for the side cards, going for tokens, skull fights, whatever, right? Sometimes, right, if you finish that fight, a Misfortune Wisp can literally spawn on you. Now, please, I want to know this from the community. If it spawns on you and you finish the fight, how do you expect me to dodge that? If it spawns literally on me, I can't run, I can't do anything. And you just lose all your mana, or you either get slowed down, you get sent to jail. I mean, the best bet is literally just getting sent to jail, right? Because someone could just get you out, it's not a big issue. But if you lose all your mana because of that, dude, like, I feel like if you get in a fight, you finish that fight, and you know how your character's grayed out a bit, you should be in a state, your wizard should be in a state where you cannot touch a wisp for like the next 5 seconds, right? Because if that's the case where I just get kicked out the fight or whatever and I immediately hit a wisp because it's literally on my character after I defeat the fight, I can't dodge it. That's not a skill issue. I literally can't do anything about it. Definitely that should get fixed, right? That's my take on the Misfortune Wisps, right? Definitely get those, switch them up a bit, KI, please, right? Now let's actually talk about boss mechanics of spawning them, right? I feel like we talked about some glitches, we talked about things that are not working as intended. Now let's talk about some mechanics, right? Because a lot of people have some opinions on the boss mechanics. Not so much me. I feel like I don't have any issues personally, but I wanted to talk on some takes that I've heard within the community. And we'll start off with the south side. South side has had like a mess over time, right? With how to spawn in Kamika, which is basically the south boss, right? You have to find these tokens, and these tokens are hidden, right? And you have to use the reveal all cantrip, right? Or reveal invisibility, right? And essentially, if there's a token in that area, you'll be able to see it. But people have been complaining about this timer, right? Whenever you use reveal invisible, you get set on a 2-minute timer. Me personally, and from my experience, I haven't had an issue with that. But I still wanted to bring up that topic. I don't know if they would actually even reduce the timer on it, right? To make it like 1 minute or maybe a minute 30. To be honest, spawning in Southside is really not an issue. If you have a solid team that knows what to do, you guys are all grouped together, working together, as a raid should be, you should be fine. But I've heard people complaining about it almost every other week, that, like, I've seen it happen in people's chats where they were complaining to Ratbeard or complaining to Cam, you'll make the timer shorter, make the timer shorter. I think the timer is fine, and I know that's a hot take, but to me, if you have a solid team that knows what they're doing, right, and you know, if someone's new to the raid, of course it's going to be a little bit difficult, you gotta teach them whatever, but I think 100%, I think it should stay 2 minutes. 2 minutes is fine. If you know how to coordinate a team on south side, you can spawn in south quick, right? And that's just me being brutally honest. So that's all my response is to the south side. Now let's talk about wests, which is Outlock. So if you want to spawn in Outlock, you have to do Cacao Pods, you have to do fishing, like I was talking about earlier, and then you also have to do skull fights. So the skull fights are pretty straightforward, you know, it's just 2 fights that you have to do, similar to north side. But there's these Cacao Pods, and people have made maps of all these Cacao Pods of where they spawn, on the spawn location, whatever, and people were complaining about the spawn rate of them and how sometimes they have to depot like 10 or 12. It's a lot, but I honestly think that's fine, right? I'm still gonna bring up the topic because, you know, people are complaining about it, right? And how to make it easier and stuff like that. They want to reduce the spawn rate of it so it spawns quicker, right? Like the timer of, they want to reduce the timer of it so it spawns in quicker, or have multiple spawn at more time, or just straight up have all 10 already laid out on the map and you can just grab and depot instead of having to wait on a timer. Just have them all laid out. I've heard some couple responses behind that, and I think the Cacao Pods, they could tweak them. They 100% could tweak them, or even tweak the Misfortune tiers like I was talking about earlier. But I think they're fine. I think it would be nice if they laid them out. I wouldn't complain about it if they're already all there, like all 10 or 12 already spawned in the specific spots, and you can just grab and depot. Makes it easier, right, to spawn in that boss. But I don't have like too many issues behind that. Now let's talk about token fights and skull fights regarding the bosses, and this correlates to the 1% of the 1% badge, because I'm pretty sure there is. This topic can get completely nullified if there isn't a 1% of the 1% badge, but just going based upon previous raid, I expect it to happen. I 100% expect it to happen. So this combined topic is relating to the Xibalba elemental. So there's the token fights that you have to do in north, of course, right? You know, you got to get the 2 tokens. You also got to find the pet token to spawn in the north boss, correct? And when you spawn in the boss, you get your toxa. Now, same thing for Outlock. Outlock, you got to do the skull fights, and you got to do the fishing. You got to do all that stuff. You know, once you get the skulls done from the specific fights, you know, you depot and you spawn in Outlock after you've depoted all the 3 things, you know? But those minions do not despawn, and you might be wondering, like, oh, I mean, what's the point? You know, if they don't despawn, it's not a big issue, right? I can still go for Hunhau. But if you're trying to go for a Xibalba elemental, right, and you're trying to do the, you know, the strat where you defeat 3 bosses in one run down the line, well, here's an issue. There's only one spot you can pull the Xibalba sprite on the left side of the map, just one spot. And there would be more spots if you make it so they despawn, right? If I summon Outlock, those fights should just despawn, right? I shouldn't have to deal with those fights, right? The minions that spawn in those skull fights should not be there, because the fact that they're there still, if I try pulling the Xibalba sprite, it gets pulled into those fights. It gets pulled into those skull fights, and I can't. Like, what do you want me to do? Especially if I get pulled into the hotter dot fight, which is on one of the skull fights, and I pull the Xibalba sprite. Well, how do you expect me to hit Xibalba sprite within like within 3 minutes? Probably a little bit less than 3 minutes. But how do you expect me to kill it in time while I can only go for hots or dots? So definitely, I think remove those fights after you summon the boss. They should still be there if you haven't summoned the boss, understandable, but I think after you summon the boss, despawn those minions, please. Same thing for the north, because the way that the Xibalba sprite moves, it can get caught in either the token 1 fight or the token 2 fight, and if that's the case, it's even worse trying to go for Xibalba sprite, right? Definitely, whenever they do that, I hope that they fix that and make it so that those fights just despawn after you summon the boss, because it's actually quite annoying a lot, and it's gonna affect how people go for that badge down the line, because right now you are not defeating all 3 bosses in one run right now. You can definitely go, you know, do both secret bosses in one run. I think it's very much possible, but doing Hunhau and the secret bosses in the same run, it's not possible at the moment, right? Especially with the way that the community is going right now. It's not happening. It's really not. But that's my take on the boss spawning mechanics for most of these. Now let's actually talk about fight mechanics, right? Let's talk about how everyone's been complaining about the minions. You hear it everywhere. Ah, it's a bad minion. Oh, it's a good minion. You hear it all the time, right? You hear it very much all the time, whether it be Sauce, me. I mean, I haven't really streamed my raids, but you hear it from other people, right, in the community that, oh, we got a good minion, bad minion, whatever, right? Now, those minions affect how you do those fights. So whenever you either doing your Toxa, Ixta, Gemika, or Outlock, they have a minion, right? And that minion kind of determines how you want to play that fight, right? Because sometimes the minion will lock you out of certain hanging effects. And I've heard a lot of feedback from the community, whether it be, yo, they should make the minions like a certain minion. It should always be like a certain school. They should not be random. And I have like a, what do you call, like that's kind of right and kind of wrong at the same time. Because if the minion was the same exact minion every time, right? So like, for example, let's use East boss as an example. Let's use Ixta as an example. In that fight, you can go for blades or weaknesses. Weaknesses can be like anything. It could be like infections. It can be just straight up just weaknesses or V plagues, whatever, right? You can go for any of those, that type of weakness, you know, like a negative charm. So sometimes you get locked out of one of the other hanging effects. Sometimes you can't go for blades. You have to go for weaknesses. Sometimes you have to go for weaknesses. And you can only go for, or like vice versa, right? And people are like, well, sometimes it's just bad if you get a certain one. For example, if you get weaknesses, it's tough buffing up a hit and going for weaknesses, right? Because you just basically just spam Oni. You use the Storm PvP Oni and you just go chop chop and you kill the minion, right? But some people don't want that, and some people are including Stupefy in their strats. Some people are doing 3-man strats. There's so many different varieties of strats, and I feel like, to be honest, in my opinion, I feel like it's way too early to say, hey, we shouldn't have the minions have a set mob. I don't think it would be bad to have a mob that lets you do hots or dots or like blades or weaknesses on the specific side. So like, for example, your Toxa, you can only go for hots or dots. I feel like if they make a minion that they make a minion that you can have in that fight and lets you do both instead of locking you out of one or the other, I think that'll be great, right? Same thing for Ixta. It should be a minion that lets you do blades or negative charms. It should not be, hey, I'm gonna lock you out of one of these. I don't think that should be a thing, but I can see some arguments behind it, and like, well, you know, there is an outside card that you can go get, you know, it can help you out a bit, aka Stupefy, which basically ignores all cheats for 1 round, so you can do blades against an enemy that you're not supposed to allow to do blades, stuff like that, right? And people just hate doing that stuff, right? They want to make the raid easier, but if they made it so it's always 2 hanging effects in every fight, other than Outlock, because Outlock is just balance is all things, but if they made it so it's 2 hanging effects in everything, then people are going to be like, well, the raid's too easy now, right? And I feel like then the devs are going to be like, well, we introduced this card, now this card is completely useless, which would be Stupefy. There's a lot of variables that come in play, right? And I can understand, right? A lot of people would want to make the raid easier, and I know the devs intended us to like use bigger decks, use Arch Mastery, use all that stuff, but people are getting around it just by using 7 card decks. Just it makes it easier, and like I think a lot of devs would agree that they would just use a 7 card deck because it's so much more easier. You can just have everything in your hand versus RNG pulling for the card that you want to pull. And I know like Ratbeard would say, well, build a deck properly and stuff like that, and that is true. All right, I do agree with him. If you can build a deck properly, you can pull your cards perfectly, right? No, I wouldn't say perfect, but like you'd have good RNG on it, right? But not everyone wants to do that, so that's why everyone's been using 7 card decks, or even 8, right? So like if they don't pull 1 card, you know, they can draw type thing. And there's a lot of variables when it comes to these mobs, but I think the mobs, I think they should maybe tweak it a little bit, not drastically, but definitely tweak it in a certain way where the community isn't as mad. But I kind of like the RNG personally, because if it's always a set way of defeating these mobs, for example, like the blades or weaknesses on Ixta, everyone's gonna want to go for blades, If it's Gamika, traps or shields, everyone's gonna want to go for traps. Hotlock, you can just do whatever because it balances everything. It'll just echo it. And then Yatoxa, people are gonna want to go for dots. Personally, I feel like over hots, because dots you can use to set up scions. You're also doing passive DPS. Hots are just healing you, so people would probably go for dots. And then it becomes an issue where people don't use the other 3 hanging effects, and then the devs are gonna be like, well, what's the point, you know? So that's why I understand the whole locking you out of one thing, right? So there's that. Now let's talk about guardians and mob pulling. I know this video is already quite long, but if you made it all the way here, you made it all the way here. So guardians and mobs, well, pulling essentially.
Poor Almond. This is sad.
I gotta learn, man. I'm trying.
Yeah, I thought you were you might have been onto something, but
Now I know I'm one of the few people who know how guardians work. I've yet to talk about it, right? Because it's on my slides. If you guys don't know, I have my own slides that I'm working on, and it just tells you everything about the raid. And I'm still working on it, right? So I haven't told people about how guardians and how they work. If you know how they work, I'm glad you do, right? You do not have to go through the pain that I went through and figuring out what they do. But essentially what guardians do is every time you summon a boss of that corresponding side, whether it be north, east, or south. West doesn't have one because they share one with east, and it's made that way for a specific reason. But basically, if you do the mob portal, they all have like certain mechanics. So guardians are only spawn on north and south. They don't spawn on east. East is you have to depot eggs and stuff like that to disable the portal. But north and south have guardians and mob pulling. People have been complaining about the mob pulling, and I think it's definitely because they're just ignoring how guardians work. People are just brute forcing it, and you know what? They're just pulling, and then they're fleeing after a certain amount of time, and they have people set at jail duty and doing all that, and just ignoring guardians. My response is just do the guardians. If you do the guardians, you'll be fine, right? But I know some people complain about the minions, and I completely get it, because every mob portal has a set minion that spawns. North has Balance Storm, or it could be a Kotal, which is just straight balance. East has Balance Ice, or it could just be a Kotal. And then South is Balance or Fire, or it could be a Kotal. And these are all predetermined mobs because of the fact that if that minion, for example, if you get a Balance Storm in North and it comes to join the Yatoxa fight, because that's the whole point. The mob is just meant to be running towards the fight, towards the top of the pyramid to join the Hunhau fight or join your fight, which would be the Yatoxa fight. And the issue is behind that is, yes, it locks you out of the mechanics. So essentially, if that Balance Storm joins that Yatoxa fight, you're getting locked out of all hanging effects. It's meant to be that way, and people were complaining about it. But I mean, it's kind of obvious it's meant to be that way. I think a lot of people would have caught on quite easily, but apparently people didn't. And people really wanted to make those mobs easier. I think if anything, they should make the Kotal mobs a little bit easier instead of it making it such a thing where you can only do one per hanging effect, because you definitely get locked out drastically by doing that. So I don't know if they'll ever fix that, and not fix it, but like tweak the Kotal mob and make it a little bit easier, because you can only do one blade, one trap, and then a bubble. You can't aura in this fights. You can't really do much beyond that. So you're just triple buffing. I mean, you could do a weakness, but how's that buffing your hit? I mean, no one's gonna use Monster Mash to do damage. No one's gonna do extra damage based upon that. I don't know who's doing that, but hey, if you want to do that, sure. But the only minion that I have kind of an issue with when it comes to the sides is the Grandma minion. Everyone's been calling it Grandma, and it's the minion that spawns in North, right, from the mob portal. It's super slow, right? And there's definitely some opinions behind it. Oh, it's slow for a reason, you know, because it's a hotter dot fight. It's tough, right? I think definitely they need to do something regarding that. I don't know exactly what they could do. Either speed up the Grandma minion, but then people are gonna complain like, oh, well, this is coming way too fast in the fight and they have to start pulling quick. That becomes an issue, right? But it being slow is also a good thing too, because you can just start the fight immediately and not have to worry about it. I think, to be honest, I think the mobs are fine from the portals. I think they should just get rid of the Kotal. I think, if I'm gonna be completely honest, I think that Kotal should not even exist, because it locks you out drastically. I think the balance storm, ice, and fire, I think those are fine. Like having those spawn from the specific portals, that's perfect. But whatever that balance coddle is that locks you out, like you're only doing 1 per hanging effect, yeah, nah, get that out of here. I'll be completely honest, get that out of here. The other 3 are perfectly fine, but not the coddle. Get that, no. That's my only take when it comes to the Guardians and Mopple. And the Guardians, they all work as intended. You can defeat them. If someone says they don't know how to defeat them, they said that's impossible to defeat them, you can defeat them. I've literally tested it, and yes, they all work. So good luck with that. Now let's talk about some side notes, right? I kind of went over the raid. There's probably more things I can talk about, but I don't think you guys want to sit through an hour video of me talking about the raid, right? Unless some people were excited that I'm talking about the raid, right? And actually giving feedback. But let's talk about some side notes. First, I want to talk about test room. Test room was way too rushed. And I know it's because the devs don't want... The whole point of test room is testing stuff. I get it. I 100% get it, right? I enjoy that we do have a test room, but that test room did not feel like a test room. Yes, we did test some bosses, but when it came into live realm, we had more issues on more issues on more issues, right? And then the player base was just getting mad, right? Me, on the other hand, on test realm, I did my best to test as much stuff as I can. Whenever I found glitches or like exploits, I would say, I did let devs know. I let Cam know, I let other devs know about it, saying, hey man, you should probably look into this. To me, it doesn't seem like it's intended. You know, you might know more about it because, you know, you guys worked on the raid, and you guys can, you know, let me know if that's true or not, which is perfect. I love the interactions that I can do with devs, you know, and you can just let them know. They even had the test room Discord, right? But even that became a mess at one point. For a lot of drama and other things, people talking bad things about other guilds, people talking about the devs. That Discord became a whole mess. I think it's a little bit toned down now, right? It's definitely toned down, but it was really bad at one point, 100%. But I think the test realm overall, it definitely should not have been rushed. It's the same thing for Pirate 101. I know this is kind of like off topic, but Pirate 101 test realm did not last that long. And I've heard Senor Spicy complain about it. I've heard other people in the community complain about how there were so many bugs, and they introduced a new key boss. Like, dude, I feel bad for that community. I know I am somewhat part of that community, but I don't play as much now just because I have, you know, there's not much to do in that game, right? I definitely could upload videos. But back to Wizard101. When it comes to test realm, yeah, it wasn't as intended. I felt like it was test realm. I definitely tested a lot of things. I love testing stuff, right? I even like let some people know, like when it comes to like staff members / devs, let me test stuff for you, right? Because the amount of stuff that was broken in this raid, I wish I could have just tested, right? There are a lot of these things I've tested, and I've relayed so much information to the devs regarding about bugs and issues that are actual bugs and issues versus players complaining about the raid. Oh, make it easier. No. Give me some actual reasons. Like, I don't like that. Like, people aren't giving actual reasoning behind it. So when I relay the information, I'm glad it's getting passed around to the devs and, you know, letting them know. I'm glad I can do that. But test room, I really wish it was extended. I really do. I'm glad it was extended that last day, and I gotta do test room, raid one more time, and we didn't have a guild cooldown, and we were able to like just test whatever, and it was fun. I got a video out of it. It was fun. And I gotta test stuff, and I gotta break the game at the same time. Best feeling in the world. But hopefully the next test round for the next raid or whenever, definitely extend it a little bit more. I think extend it based upon the content, right? If we're getting an update similar to the Stitch update that we had, like the Stitch event, definitely that test room it doesn't need to be long. Like, for example, the raid one or like world ones, whenever there's a new world, extend it a little bit longer, please, KI. Like, I know you don't want us to get too much information when it comes to that type of stuff, like especially the raid. They really did not want us to. They're not waiting for somebody to beat the raid in test room, which I completely understand, right? That's not my point. I wanted to test stuff for the community, right? And I enjoy testing stuff, right? I'd rather test stuff and it not work for me than like if it's not intended, than having someone else that was like super excited to do it and then not work for them and they're just like really depressed, right? I'd rather do it myself and test stuff. I'm glad I can test that stuff whenever I get the opportunity to, and just let devs know like, hey, you should probably fix this. Don't want other people to experience what I just experienced. So we'll see that down the line. Now let's talk about energy consumption. I've heard so many things passed around by this. I've heard Sauce talk about it. I've heard Liam talk about it. I've heard so many people in this community talk about energy consumption in the raid. It's way too much. Is like, do the devs expect us to waste this much energy? Like, you're wasting energy on fishing, jail, like cantrips, all this types of stuff. And people are getting, oh, even the tokens as well. You have to use reveal all, but people are getting really mad about the energy consumption. And my response to them is that you're not managing energy properly, right? And that's just me being completely honest, right? You shouldn't have to waste, like, I've seen people's strats, right? Everyone's using this certain strat at the moment. You guys all know who's using this. I shouldn't have to speak about it, but you guys all know who's using what strat at the moment. But you're not using a million freaking cantrips on one fight, like, and then people are complaining about energy cost after that, and I'm just like, of course you're complaining about energy costs when you do like a million cantrips on a fight when you don't need to. Like, if people pay attention to the map, think about it. When you're doing north fight, look at the cards that are corresponding to that side, like the outside cards that you can grab. It's intended to be that way, and players are like, no, I must cantrip, I must cantrip. I'll be honest, look at your surroundings, please. But you shouldn't have to waste too much cantrips. I get it for the fishing part, but to be honest, I think fishing, they shouldn't be like a percent based up for the sentinels. I think the sentinels should be like, if I throw a fishing lure, I should just get it 100% of the time. Like, I shouldn't have to like RNG me catching a fish, right? If I can collect Cacao Pods and everything else super easy, other than just waiting for the spawn rate of them and not have an issue, fishing should just be 100%. Let players use a rank 1 and be 100% of the time, because when people wouldn't complain about that. I think if fishing was fixed, people would not be complaining about the cantrips, would not be complaining about the jail mechanic and stuff like that. The jail mechanic to me is just a skill issue. If you get sent to jail, but that also relates to the wisp. If the wisp literally spawns on you, I understand, bro. I 100% understand, right? But if there's a wisp like off in the distance and you get run into it and then you're complaining about the jail or mana or anything like that, you knew what was coming for you. You ran into that. But if it's spawning on you, it's understandable. But if they make it so fishing is 100%, not like, you know, 10% of it running or whatever, if it's 100% in the raid, I think players would be happy, right? And I know some people are like tossing out the idea, oh, well, we can just use a no energy fishing benefit in the elixir, like the elixirs. I'm not using that just to raid. I'm really not. But I can see where you're coming from, but I'm not using that, right? Just make fishing 100%. People won't complain. No one's going to complain about the cantrips and stuff like that. And you don't really need a cantrip heavy as people think it is. Like, I understand mana, you know, if you're doing that Xibalba sprite, whatever, but there's fights that are corresponding to that side for a reason. People need to look at their surroundings in the raid and you'll be fine. You generally will be fine. Now let's talk about the community. The community. I love you guys, right? It's like a love-hate relationship. I love some of you guys that are in my chat all the time, right? You guys are like amazing. You guys always check up on me, say what's up. You guys want to, you know, do some fights, key bosses, whatever, right? You guys are always down to do stuff. But there's some of you guys, right? And this is not just my community. This is like, I've seen this in almost every other community, and just the Wiz community in general. You guys should not be like saying things about the raid when you don't know. Like, if you haven't experienced the raid and I feel like you shouldn't have like an opinion on the raid too much, right? I get it if you like watch like a person raid consecutively, but the people who don't even watch the raids are complaining about the raids. Oh, it's too hard, this, that. Well, don't complain about it if you haven't even experienced it, right? And the people who are saying that don't even have logical reasons behind it, right? If you have logical reasoning behind it, I completely get it. You know, I completely get where you're coming from. But people just blatantly saying, oh, the raid's too easy or the raid's too hard, this, that. Like, huh? Like, you don't have any raid experience and people are saying that. And I can come from like a content creator standpoint. It's mad annoying. I'll be completely honest with you guys. It's just mad annoying, right? And don't take it the wrong way. There's certain people in the community that are like that too, but just don't take it the wrong way. I'm just being completely honest and saying like, you guys should chill out with that, right? 100% chill out with that. And same thing with the Hunhau stuff, right? People keep blatantly saying people have defeated it, people have defeated it, people have defeated it. Even people who are trying to go for Hunhau get tired of hearing that in their chats. Stop saying that. If someone defeated Hunhau, multiple people would have announced it, and the KI themselves would have already announced it, because going for worlds first on this raid, it means a lot to them as well, right? It's not like they don't care about the raid. It does mean a lot to them, right? If someone defeated the raid, they would have announced it. Trust me guys, they would have announced it. They did it before, why wouldn't they do it again? So please ask, as a content creator and to the community, stop spreading misinformation. Like, I get if you're trolling, I troll sometimes too, right? But people know I'm trolling. People know it, right? Not everyone's gonna know what way you're trying to do it, you know? That's just my take, right? But overall, that's just my take on the community, right? I love you guys though. Love you guys. Also, when it comes to the community, a lot of people have been complaining about the gear and, you know, like the stats aren't something that they want, but they got to realize that KI is following a template system. That's what they're doing moving forward, right? Just because you think the raid gear is not that good right now, give it time, because down the line I'm pretty sure they'll release more templates, for example Wallaroo, that might benefit these templates, which is essentially the Hunhau gear and whatever the other gear is, because they basically told us that there's two templates. There's the Hunhau and then the Xibalba, but I'm pretty sure that gear is going to benefit whatever the Wallaroo gear is going to be later down the line. But I know people are already complaining about drops in the raid when it comes to like the drop rates and what it drops. Like, why isn't it dropping spell elements? Why isn't it doing all these things? But I think the raid stuff like that you get from the bosses is completely fine at the moment. Like, obviously I don't know what everything drops in the raid, but I think so far, I think the drop rates seem fine to me at least. And I feel like people always just want to argue that we should get a guarantee drop. It's understandable. It's 100% understandable. But if it was a guarantee drop, I don't know how I would feel at the same time, because it is an MMO at the end of the day, and we're slowly progressing in a way where the game is becoming more grindy, which a lot of people don't want because it's a children's game, but I feel like they're kind of like upping it a bit. But yeah, I don't know, people are complaining a lot about drops and like stats and stuff like that, but those are like the same people who want the strats given to them. I feel like me on the other hand, like I'm trying new things in the raid every time, right? And the people who are like sitting there on the like sidelines, like kind of complaining about the game, are the same people who aren't thinking of strats and trying to defeat the raid and trying their best to like figure stuff out. Instead, they like everything handed to them, which I guess that's its own separate topic in itself. But there are people like that in the community, and I mean, that's okay if you're that type of person, but definitely it's not my cup of tea. That's what I would say. Now let's talk about the raid roundtable.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of sitting here with my mouth hanging open. I'm sitting here kind of stunned at this.
I know a lot of people were messaging me saying I should have been on it. I've gotten people in my chat tell me the same thing. I should have been on it. Should have been on it. That's not how raid roundtables work. Raid roundtables work is when a player or like a community, like for example like Final Bastion, this is no hate to anybody, right? No hate to all the people that were doing the raid roundtable, but how it works is a player or like the community goes up to the devs, hey, I would like to host a raid roundtable, etc., you know, and you know, you basically invite them to your stream. You know, you invite them to your stream and you ask them questions. But I think the questions that were asked are very questionable and they were not done properly. And I feel like I would have done a better job. No offense, guys, no offense. Stormcloud, no offense. But literally, I feel like it should have done it better in a proper way. And the questions that were asked were not. It was a waste of time. I'm sorry. And I think Radbeard said this too, that they didn't do that great of a job. And I was kind of disappointed, low-key. I was hoping that they would ask like the juicy questions. Bro, please extend the timer. Like, I've heard questions like that and I'm just like, dude, what them changing the timer is not a big issue. I feel like a lot of people are taking that out of context because they hear it from one person and they just agree, right? The timer is not an issue in this raid, right? It's the mechanics behind all the other aspect of the raid. Them putting it to 25 minutes, I believe. Originally it was 35 in test realm. That was not intended. A lot of people felt like you had way too much time and stuff like that, but now people are getting the hang of things. They're getting so much time left over, right? It was just too early for people to complain about the timer, right? I even said it myself. I'm like, people should not be complaining about the timer because you get time whenever you polymorph into the forms for that corresponding boss, right? If I kill Yatoxa and I take the form of Yatoxa, the timer gets extended by 5 minutes. So in reality, you're also getting 20 minutes on top of that 25 minutes that you have. So it's a 45-minute raid almost, technically, right? And people were still complaining about the timer. It would have been a 55-minute raid. Just think about that for a second. A 55-minute raid. Definitely you would have, like, you know, caused some leeway. You would have like a lot of extra time, but I'm talking about the max amount of minutes that you would have. Like, just think about that for a second. And I don't know why people were complaining about timer. I think it's just because that, like, the way that the community was, they were seeing it, at least, like, that they wanted the timer. A lot of people want guild cooldowns to be fixed, stuff like that. Guys, let's be realistic. Like, I can see it being switched. Like, I can see guild cooldowns being adjusted, but not making it how it was before, where you can just guild hop. Then we're just gonna have a scenario where all the people are just gonna keep raiding, guild hopping. We'll have infinite portals. We'll go back into the age where we'll just have infinite portals and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure the devs do not want that, and I can agree with them on that, right? As much as I love that era, it's not coming back, guys. It's really not. They're definitely gonna adjust the cooldowns or something like that, and I feel like people should not be complaining major, but you know, it happens, right? It really does. But at the moment, I think just prioritize where you want your characters at the moment. If you're on cooldown right now, I get it, just wait the cooldown. I've seen people have issues regarding the cooldown as well, where their cooldown got reset multiple times and they weren't even in the guild. That's happened to 4 of the people that are in my guild currently. They went from 12 days, we waited 4 days, whatever, the cooldown was like lower, and then I tried inviting them and it got reset back to 12 days. I'm pretty sure that's a known glitch at KI. I'm hoping that they know about that. I've messaged somebody regarding it, and I'm praying that gets fixed. But the actual cooldown itself, it will get adjusted over time. It 100% will. Just wait, right? Play how the game is intended at the moment, and you know, if you actually have bug issues and stuff like that, let the devs know, man. Let the devs know. Cam even has a bug report in his Discord, and there's even a test round Discord, right? Let them know issues. But like, just saying make the raid easier is not going to solve anything, and they're just going to look at it and be like, well, that's not actual response, right? They want actual feedback. They want actual responses, not just brain dead responses of, yo, fix the raid, make the raid easier, reduce the energy cost, stuff like that. Give them actual feedback, guys. Actual feedback, and the devs will love it, trust me. But overall, that is the video. I probably missed some stuff, right? Like, for example, voice of death. Like, I didn't talk about voice of death. Voice of death is fine. Nothing needs to be changed about that boss. Perfect. Xibalba elemental needs some adjusting. Hunhau, like the whole process of summoning Hunhau, I already talked about all the issues, right? Not Hunhau himself, right? I'll save that for like another video, but everything surrounding Hunhau, like the skull fights, token fights, whatever, the minions, whatever. We talked about that. We basically went over everything in the raid. There's some stuff I probably missed out, but like drums, drums is fine. Drums is fine, guys. If you have issues on drums, well, as Cam would say,
seems like a skill issue to me.
But that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's quite long, but I wanted to talk about everything about the Azteca raid. I know a lot of you guys have been wanting me to talk about it. I've seen some opinions. Some people have invalid opinions that just make zero sense, and I wanted to give you my opinions. You guys can say my opinions are completely like biased and, you know, they're completely wrong. Let me know in the comments below. I will be looking at the comments and I will be responding to you guys the best as I can, right? But I wanted to talk about everything and give you guys my opinion, because I genuinely have spent a lot of time on this raid, from hours to attempts. Definitely not the most as most people have, but I use my time wisely in the raid versus other people. So that is it. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys want to join the guild, join Discord down below. Let me know in the Discord. think we're almost like full at the moment, but definitely, you know, if you want to join, you actually want to raid, you actually want to learn everything like that, you're more than welcome to join my guild, right? Just make sure you're max level. If you're level 50, I'm sorry, I'm not you're not joining the raid, you're not. But if you're max level, you can join the guild. But that is it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.